Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Esoterica live stream. Really glad to be able to jump back on and do these. I love these. I love these live streams. They're one of my favorite part of the whole channel. Obviously, I love creating content and doing that kind of work, but it's really enjoyable to be able to hang out with folks and friends of the channel, fans of the channel, and get to know all of y'all a little bit better, answer some questions, and hang out. It's so much more interactive than staring at a camera. But yeah, just want to welcome everyone to the live stream. We'll get to some questions and answers as much as I'm able here toward the end. But I guess first things we said, if I seem a little bit lower energy than normal, not that I'm ever high energy. I don't think anyone's ever going to accuse Esoterica of being a high energy mm, realm. It's because I tested positive for COVID yesterday. So I've had a runny nose and wasn't feeling great, and yeah, tested positive for COVID. So I'm not feeling super great. Although I will say that in the compared to the last two times that I had COVID, this is much better. I guess is the right word. I don't know. The last two times it was quite dreadful, but at least at this point, mild symptoms, just mostly low energy, fatigue. Also, I went to the gym yesterday too, not knowing that I had COVID, and though I will say that I do wash, wipe the machine, so hopefully that will, have stem the tide of anyone else getting it, God forbid. But yeah, I went pretty hard on leg day, which is an easy day to go hard on. You can really go hard on leg day. So I can't tell what's just like being out of the gym for 10 days and getting back in and getting going hard on the gym front, or it was just like COVID achiness. But at any rate, but yeah, I took two different tests and they both came back instantly positive. So pretty sure that's what it is. It's out there, and so it goes. But the great thing about, even if you're have COVID, you can still jump on a live stream and hang out with some cool people like you find folks, um, and that. But at least at this point, I'm not really experiencing any severe symptoms or anything like that. So yeah, this is my third time through with it, but we'll see. But at any rate, really glad to be back. I will say that it's really bizarre. The trip that I was on, we don't do a lot of vacationing, I guess, in my family, just for various reasons. But at least one, we try to do one over the winter because Michigan winters, as folks may know, are especially cold and dark. And so getting out of the cold and the dark is pretty good. And luckily, my brother lives in New Orleans, so that gives us an excuse to travel down to New Orleans. In this case, we took a boat down to Mexico, which was a mixed affair, frankly. Mexico, being going to visit Cozumel. While I'm, not opposed to people, drinking all day and getting drunk on tequila, which is perfectly a fine venture indeed. I definitely decided I was going to get over to some of the ruins on the interior, and I did. It was fantastic. It was really neat to go see some of the pilgrimage sites there in the interior. And but what an odd thing to go from basically what was the jungles of Mexico. I think it was 87 degrees Fahrenheit there in the jungle, just steaming, humid, classic Mexican jungle, to here looking outside here in the Metro Detroit area, and I can see the snow beginning to roll in. Folks may know that we're going to have a pretty significant snowstorm starting right now, actually. So yeah, it's a strange thing to go from the Mexican jungle to the bleak midwinter here in Detroit. And in the meantime, I got to go visit the house that I grew up in South Jackson, Mississippi, and sadly, it burned down just a few weeks ago. My house that I grew up in, the house where I, read my first books on esotericism as a youngster. I can still remember sitting in my room and watching like Evil Dead and reading books about vampires and Atlantis and all this stuff. And that was, I remember standing there at that. And looking in the what is basically just a burned out shell of a house now, and thinking, oh wow, this is really kind of where my story begins in so many ways. And but it was interesting going from New Orleans to Jackson and seeing this burned out house that I grew up in. and then down to Mexico. It was a quite a week. We were gone for about 12 days, so it was a quite an interesting 12 days to say the very least. Sorry, just having a little coffee here, boost my spirits. But at any rate, yeah, it is interesting. I don't know if anyone else is. It's sort of a weird kind of grief, and one of the things that they talk about in psychology these days is complicated grief. Grief is a very complicated thing, and I have to say that it was really sad for me to see this house that I had played my first Nintendo games in and stuff, and to see it now just burned down. It was kind of sad, but um, sic gloria transit mundi, as they say. Thus passes the glory of the world. Look, man, even the Mona Lisa's falling apart. But all right. So just a couple things. I want to just say a little bit of sort of year in review and sort of what we can expect for this coming year. Um, and I apologize for any coughing or sneezing or hacking I'm doing um, during the live stream. I do apologize, but so year in review last year. One of the things I'm glad to tell you is that I'm not one of the many of the YouTubers who seem to be quitting for whatever reason. I think we all, for folks who consume a good bit of YouTube, we just watch some of our favorite YouTubers quit. And I'm not doing that. That's definitely not in the cards for me. I'm very much just ramping up. Um, but year in review for last year, I thought last year was a great year for the channel. We had really, really meteoric growth, just fantastic growth in terms of subscribers and support and reaching out and meeting new people and all the kinds of things that make for a successful YouTube channel, whether it's on esotericism or Legos. So we had a really successful year last year, and really, honestly, I just want to repeat that. Um, I think that there's a the tendency among some YouTubers to, when they get to be a relatively big channel, and Esoterica has gotten to a gotten to be a pretty big channel. We're 500,000 subscribers. And again, nothing compared to random eighth grader opening Legos, or but a decent sized channel for especially something as esoteric as this. I think there's a tendency to want to sort of like jump the shark and do something else, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is that last year was for me a pretty good proof that kind of what we're doing here is working. And my general sense is I kind of wanted to keep doing what worked last year. That's not to say I don't want to do more stuff and new stuff. I definitely do want to do that, but I definitely don't want to change some fundamental thing about the channel. Um, One of my favorite channels that I watch, and I'm not going to out them, um, just because it's not really, it's not a fair thing to do. But they changed up the frequency in which they released videos, and they changed up the kind of content they were making, and frankly, it made me watch them a lot less. And I think that success is a pretty good indicator of future success. And so, what I want to do for this year is I want to kind of keep doing more of the same. So, don't expect anything around here in terms of like lineup changes or scheduling changes. We're still going to be putting out 3 videos a month. Again, with everything that at least when life doesn't get in the way, and then we're going to have live streams. Once a month at least, as best I can, and that's going to be basic esoterica for as far as I can see it. I don't want to change that because I think that's working, and I think that's kind of what y'all like. Um, and so there's that. The other couple things that I do want to do, and I don't know that I'm going to accomplish them, is one, I want to do another class. Like the Kabbalah class, folks who were able to take a look at the Kabbalah class. I want to do another long form class like that, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 sessions. Um, and right now, my mind is split pretty evenly between doing a class on Merkava mysticism, and doing one, maybe doing one on Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. So I don't know what direction I want to go there, but what I do know is I want to do another class. The way that basically will work is I'll have it open. The class itself will go to Patreon supporters first. They'll be there live in the class, and they'll be able to ask questions live. And then everyone will get access to the class afterwards. because I'm not going to create content that's just paywalled. I'm not doing that. I think there's good reasons to do that for some creators. I'm not doing that. I think anything that I can create on one side of a community, I can create on the other side. And to me, it's very important to accessibility is just the fundamental virtue, I guess, that I adopt over this channel. So, um, so I don't know. I'm going to put a poll up, both for my Patreon people and for y'all, and I'm going to just see where the most interest is, and I'm going to prioritize that. Um, but again, I'm really torn. You can see in the background, I have the Purdue. I have the Purdue Agrippa out, and so I've been looking at Agrippa, and I've been looking at the Merkava stuff, and the reason why I want to do the Merkava stuff because I don't think that material gets much attention. Um, but I want to also do the Agrippa because I think Agrippa actually doesn't get much attention. I think Agrippa is one of these characters that is far more celebrated than known, and I'd like to do a comprehensive study of Agrippa, which would include leading up to him. So this would be the period of sort of the Italian Renaissance, Pico and Ficino, Reuchlin and Lazzarelli, and then laying out they're really systematically laying out the three books of occult philosophy. So at any rate, that's the one other thing that I want to do this year. I really am committed to doing that, and I really want to make a class happen just because I think those are just good long form classroom style content is good. So what else to come? I'm thinking about maybe trying to do a little bit more aesthetic stuff for the channel. Um, I don't know what aesthetic stuff. Like, I just want to. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I do want to keep working on my skills in terms of video editing and stuff like that. I want to get a little better at that. I really love the way that Philip and Zevi's content on their channels look. Let's talk religion and Seekers of Unity. So I want to up my game a little bit in terms of the production quality of Esoterica videos. So I'm going to be aiming for that. Oh, I see Angela in the chat. Hey, Angela, it's great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Really wonderful to see you in the chat, everybody. Angela Symposium, of course, a dear friend and colleague. Make sure to check out her channel. So there's that. I think the other thing that I want to do, and again, I'd love to get y'all's feedback from this, and I can put this on polls and stuff too, is I think I might want to do more book related content, more esoteric, antiquarian book content. And that, let's say, you can probably see back here in the background over there, that is the pile of antiquarian books that's going to be the winter catalog. And I'd like to start doing more, actually showing and telling more about antiquarian occult books, because there's a lot of these old books that just don't exist in modern editions, and I'd love to get into showing people sort of what does an antiquarian occult book look like, what's actually in them, what makes them so neat, why would you want to have one as opposed to just having a modern paperback, um, etc. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do that, and I think I'm gonna do a little bit more book content. I actually talked to Denis over at Denis Poisson from Foolish Fish, who is the king of occult book content creation. He's just a fantastic fella, and vetted it by him because I don't want to ever rip off any of the stuff that he does so well. But I've gotten his blessing to do a little bit more book centric content when it comes to old esoteric books. So maybe some esoteric book content as well. But that's it. I'm gonna try to do some more in person stuff when I'm in New York in April. I'm gonna try to do like some kind of event, like just meet and greet. If folks are interested and folks are in the New York Boston area, you want to come down to New York City. Um, Maybe do a meet and greet somewhere at a bar or something. I don't know. So that's also in the works for maybe April when I'm there for the rare book fair, and yeah, stuff like that. Stuff like that. So I guess what to say is year in review, year to come. Not a lot. Not a lot's going to change. I just don't want to change a lot of things because I don't like it, frankly, when my favorite YouTube people change formats or change stuff. And I think that last year was a pretty good proof that that things are going well. So I don't know. I don't want to change things. So um, that's that. That's that. Um, in other news, um, I want to share with you a story with y'all. I want to share with y'all a story of a thing that just happened to me recently. And part of the reason why I have such a touch and go relationship with the academy. Now, you guys all know I'm a university lecturer. I teach in the university. I teach classes in political philosophy, metaphysics, and ethics. I'm deeply connected to the university, and I absolutely I admire what universities do. I admire what academia does. I couldn't do what I do if it weren't for the work of various academics. So what I want to talk about is the dark side of academia and how you can get just mucked about with academia. So let me tell you a story, something that recently happened to me. A group of graduate students. It's very common for graduate students to host conferences, and graduate students host conferences, and they typically bring in junior scholars to be the keynotes in those conferences. Well, a university, and I'm not going to name it for reasons I'll talk about in a minute, a university, a graduate student program in philosophy reached out to me and honored me with an invitation to do the keynote for their graduate student conference. Now, graduate student conferences are, they're great. I organized a graduate student conference when I was a graduate student on the philosophy of labor. So they're very important things for graduate students to do, and they're great for junior scholars because it allows junior scholars to keynote at a conference. Like, who doesn't want to keynote at a conference? So I got invited by this graduate program in philosophy to do their keynote in their graduate student conference. I prepared, sort of a short thing about what I would talk about. I was going to be talking about the so-called irrational in ancient Greek philosophy, really focusing on Parmenides. So I kind of worked up a thing that I was going to give this keynote about, and it was all agreed to. Graduate students voted. They agreed to have me come and give this keynote. And then everything was hunky dory. And I was like, great, I'm going to get to go give this keynote and hang out with a bunch of smart philosophy graduate students. It's going to be fantastic. So a keynote, just for folks who don't know, it's just you're the star of the show of the conference. You're the big speaker. There's going to be a lot of other people giving talks and stuff, but you're the guy or person. You're the person who's giving the most important, most prestigious lecture. So again, it's an honor, and I really take it as an honor to be invited to these kinds of things. At any rate, about a month later, I get an email from the graduate student who initially invited me, and he wrote me apologizing because, and get this, the senior faculty of that university their vote, vetoed their vote, and disinvited me from being able to keynote the conference. Now, their reasoning, as much as I can understand it, was that apparently I don't have enough academic prestige to deserve a keynote, despite the fact that, for instance, I was invited over to Amsterdam in the most prestigious institution of esotericism, academic study of esotericism in the world, at a round table with the most prestigious scholar, one of the most prestigious scholars, Wouter Hanegraaff. So I'm apparently prestigious enough to do that, but I'm not prestigious enough to go to give a talk at this graduate student conference. And apparently, I have a controversial past, and that's not incorrect. I do, but philosophers often have controversial pasts. So I was disinvited. Now, what happened in this case was the senior faculty overrode the vote of the graduate students. So just no democracy. The graduate students voted, senior faculty just overrode them. So it's just basically totalitarianism. And on top of that, they made the graduate student come and tell me that I was disinvited and to apologize. Can you imagine being so cowardly that you use totalitarian power to override your graduate students and then force a graduate student to do the apologizing for you? It's just breathtaking cowardice. Breathtaking cowardice. So I the graduate student wrote me and told me that this happened, and he was extremely sorry and apologetic. And, you know, I wrote to him and said, you know what? Frankly, this is not the first time this has happened to me. This is a thing that's happened to me on several occasions, frankly. And what it reminds me of is just at some level why I have a deep distrust of the academic world. A deep distrust because it is not academic, because it is deeply totalitarian, because it is not it is not a meritocracy. It is very much about class and prestige. It's very much about all kinds of things that have nothing to do with one's actual merit. And this is the kind of reason why I worry about the general health of the academic world. I deeply worry about the health of the academic world because of this kind of, I don't know, low rent Stalinism. Um, of course, parading as liberal democracy or whatever. But this is the kind of stuff that deeply disturbs me about the academic world. And also part of the reason why I can't even do my work. I want to do work in Western esotericism. I want to be able to make this information accessible. I want to teach this stuff. And the moment that I get invited in, vetoed by senior faculty. Now, I'm not going to tell y'all what university this is for a very simple reason. Because if the senior faculty got brigaded by a bunch of people saying, "Oh, how dare you disinvite Sledge," they're not going to suffer. It's not going to do anything to them because they're tenured, because they're safe, because they live in this ivory tower, and absolutely nothing is going to happen to them. But what absolutely can happen is the graduate students who voted me to come there, they can be targeted. And trust me, graduate students, the graduate students will be punished for this. That's what would happen. That's absolutely what would happen. And I don't want those graduate students being punished because those graduate students are already staring down the barrel of an awful job market. And they're staring down the barrel of a situation where their very likelihood of success is tethered to how well they kiss the boots of those very professors that just vetoed their votes. So I'm absolutely not going to tell anybody where this was, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason why is because those graduate students don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. So this is the kind of stuff, folks, that makes me just completely and deeply skeptical of the academic world. And this is where I want to say thank y'all. Thank you all. You all, from the people in the chat to the people who support me through Patreon, to the people who, you know, do live who do the super stickers, the people who do all the things of making Esoterica possible. I want to thank you because rather than disempower me, the way that this is another example of the way that academia has sought to disempower me for whatever reason, you all have done nothing other than empower me. And I am extremely thankful for that. Just humbled and thankful to be surrounded by so many people, kind, wonderful, thoughtful people who are willing to support this work, my work, the work that makes my life so rich. And I'm able to give back to y'all because you empower me through your kind comments and through other kinds of things that you do to make this channel possible. So all of that's a cautionary tale to say academia still looks down its nose at what we do. It still looks down its nose at topics and esotericism as if somehow we're less than or not worthwhile or, I mean, not prestigious. Like, I don't know what I can do to be more prestigious. I don't know what I can do to get a PhD and to go, hang out with Professor Hanegraaff and at the Embassy of the Free Mind. I don't know much more I can do as an educator, which is what I want to do. I want to do education. I don't know what else I can do to be more prestigious, but it's apparently not enough. Not enough for them. But I thank heaven that it is enough for you all. I think heaven it is enough for you to support me and to make my work possible. And for that, I want to extend my absolute deepest gratitude because getting slighted by a bunch of, I don't know, stooge Stalinists hiding behind graduate students to do their dirty work reminds me that I don't want to do that. I don't want to be those people. I don't want to live in that ivory tower and use my safety as a way to prevent, I don't know, someone like me coming in and saying something. Do you really think I'm going to go in there and say something bizarre or embarrass their department or something? Like, of course, I wouldn't do something like that. So, at any rate, um, support your graduate students. If you guys have graduate students in your life, um, um, if you guys have graduate students in your life, no graduate students in in philosophy or in other kinds of departments, give them some love. They're working hard. They're trying to get out there and do the right thing. So graduate students do all the work in these departments. Adjuncts also do all the work in these departments. They get none of the prestige, none of the pay, none of the security, none of the health care, frankly, nothing. They work for poverty wages in the hopes of something. So if you know graduate students or adjunct professors in your life, show them some love. Show them that you respect them. Thank them for the work that they do because they make these departments run. All the while, tenured people, often in many cases, right? And again, I'll say the departments I teach for, where I teach at, my my deans and my chairs have always been lovely to me. Always been lovely to me. I've never had any problems with them. They've been very kind people and very supportive of me. But academia on a whole worries the hell out of me for reasons like this. So, excuse me. Again, a cautionary tale for folks out there. This is the kind of thing that if you're interested in esotericism and if you want to do this kind of work, these are the kinds of things you're going to encounter. You're going to encounter being invited to give talks, and then from them tell you at the last minute they're not paying for your airfare. These are the kinds of things that you'll be dealing with. And so when people say, "Hey, I want to do the job that you do. I want to go become an academic in esotericism," they don't burn you anymore. But what they do is they freeze you out. And if this is the kind of thing you can take, and if it's worth it to get the education, you should do it. But otherwise, you should expect the cold shoulder. And again, this is why I'm just so extremely thankful for you all. Extremely thankful for you all. All right. Let me grab some questions. Just a few. Grab some questions, and I just want to also just say thanks for all the folks sending in super thanks and stickers and stuff. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna get some questions, and I want to do a little esotericism show and tell as we do around here. So we'll get to that in just a minute. All right, let me scroll down here and get these supers. Make sure I get those because I don't want anyone paying any money and I don't answer their questions, or at least try. Um, cannot promise to know the answers to all the questions, man. That is simply beyond the pale of possibility. How do you manage to eat 4 meals a day? You seem slightly scrawnier these past weeks. Um, I don't eat 4 meals a day. I know I actually I don't eat breakfast, and because I find that I eat breakfast, my mind kind of gets hazy. So I just have a cup of coffee and then get to work, and then I usually break for lunch at around 1. But yeah, that's my brother was actually asking if we should do like a life in the day in the life of Esoterica. I don't know if you guys like that kind of content. I don't know. It sounds very indulgent to me. But if you guys are interested in sort of like how I live my life, like a day in the life of Justin Sledge, as much as that would sound completely boring to me, if you're interested in me making content like that, let me know. I'll happily make a content about, I don't know, me eating oatmeal and going to the gym. Um, and reading. Be very boring, just me reading stuff. Thank you for the super sticker. It's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Alex Xavier. It's a cool name. Sounds like an X-Men. X person. Yalda. Thank you. Why do you have a dislike of Gnosticism? I don't dislike Gnosticism. I'm just not a dualist. I don't think that matter is inherently bad. And when I say Gnosticism, that's what I mean. It's sort of evil creator mythology, the demiurge, evil demiurge mythology. I just don't think the universe is bad. I just don't have that sense of it. Or rather, I would be willing to go whole hog with the Gnostics in the sense that maybe the universe is bad, or at least not good for us, which does seem reasonable. and but just deny the fact there's anything coming. So it's Gnosticism without the salvation, which sounds like Seorian or Schopenhauer or True Detective or something. But no, I don't dislike Gnosticism. I'm just not a big fan of dualism, especially dualism, value dualism, where like one thing is good and one thing is bad. Thank you, Heather, for your sticker. I appreciate it. Thank you much um for supporting the channel. All right. So the super stickers. Thank you, JM. God made the universe. The universe made man. Man made God. Maybe, Eric. Thank you. Um, I was like with Xenocrates that if the Ethiopians and if there were a god, then what is it? The Ethiopians think their god is dark and woolly haired. The Thracians think their god is redheaded. The Greeks think their gods are dark haired, and they're all wrong. Always like always like that. All right. Thank you, Ray, for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Why does Egypt seem to be the only Near East culture without a prophetic tradition? So there is a little bit. There is a little bit of Egyptian prophecy. Um, we have a small text that's been recovered that's prophetic, and also in the Hermetica, which is a deeply Egyptian text. There's a so-called Hermetic Apocalypse there in the Esculapius. So it does seem to be there, and it's almost certainly the case that there were Egyptian prophets, and by prophet I mean simply someone speaking on behalf of the gods. They probably existed in the priest class, and a lot of that information simply wasn't written down and hasn't survived. So, insofar as a caste of people who speak on behalf of the gods, almost certainly they existed. I just don't think that we have much literary evidence of them, but but in that way, I think that they were a big deal. Now, did they exist in the same way the Israelites did, where they functioned as social critics as well? I'm not so sure about that. We don't. I don't think there's much evidence in that regard. Right. Let's make sure I get these supers before I grab some more questions. Yeah. Hey, Mark. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing because that's the only thing I can do. Bad things are gonna happen to you in life. You're gonna, it's disappointing. It's disappointing when you think you get some prestigious thing and then you get disinvited. It sucks. It's like kind of breaks your heart a little bit. It makes you feel less than. But that's life. Life is gonna be filled with in moments where you get made you someone tries to make you feel less than. But the truth of the matter is, those people don't get to measure my worth. I get to measure my worth. The people that support me get to measure my worth. And when I think about what my worth is, I measure it in terms of how many people I'm reaching, how many people I can provide education with and to. And I don't know. I feel pretty successful. I feel quite successful. And that's not to brag. It's not a brag at all. I'm successful because other people are making that possible. I'm not a self made man. There's no such thing as that, but I am a person who's working hard to build a community of education and provide education. And if that is benefiting people, then my God, you know, what better thing to have on my gravestone, than he was a good father and he was an educator. If I can have good father and good educator on my gravestone, then I'll rest in the earth, knowing that I made the world a bit better of a place than I left it. And that's about as far of much success as I want in this world. Thank you, Mark, for the super sticker. Appreciate it. A couple more. Okay, I think those are them. Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, Hank. Um, Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm glad that I've earned the trust of people. I also know that trust is a real easy thing to lose. The whole business with James Somerton recently, which was all over the YouTube sphere, this whole plagiarism scandal and all that stuff. Um, Trust is a really easy thing to lose, really easy thing to lose, and I really hope that I'm going to. I hope that I do my utmost. Excuse me, to maintain it, because that would be a real disaster for me. Would be to lose you guys, to lose you guys' trust. But let's keep on keeping on. Um, Hey Curtis. I would love to run a D&D game. There's a thing that we've been wanting to do is among the religion tube people. Maybe do like a religion tube D&D session that's sort of streamed um, in some kind of way. I don't know how we would pull that off, but I think we could. And I think it'd be fun. There's a part of me who wants to do that and like donate any proceeds to like some kind of charity that we agree upon, some kind of education charity, or I know I'd love to give a bunch of money to some of the folks that are making sure that women in Afghanistan still have access to education because that's extremely perilous. So the kind of thing that I would love to organize a D&D religion tube with Andrew and Philip and Zevi and all Danatrell and all of us like doing a I don't know, maybe I could run a tomb of horrors. I would love to subject all those people to Tomb of Horrors. I'd feel bad subjecting Angela to Tomb of Horrors, but I would love to subject everyone to Tomb of Horrors. I once ran Tomb of Horrors by candlelight here in the study. It was completely hilariously fun, just massacring people. Um, so I'd love to do that. And I think I'd love to do it, but I'd love to do it in a way that we could take some donations or some kind of we could use it as a fundraiser, and I'd love to throw that money at making sure that something like the women in Afghanistan, there's institutions that are helping to make sure that women in Afghanistan have access to education, and those are things that I really think are important. So yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be a gas, be an absolute gas. Um, what's your current favorite album to work to? This is a great question. Mostly what I've been listening to the last 2 or 3 weeks is the Final Fantasy VI soundtrack. So that's the one with like Kefka and Celeste and the opera and all that. I've been listening to like the Final Fantasy 6 or 3 or whatever version you want. I've been listening to that on repeat. So yeah, so if you ever think of me sort of pecking away writing an Esoterica script about Enochian or something, you can imagine that I'm listening to Final Fantasy music or something like that. Sorry. I was also listening to the new Panopticon album, which is great. If you're a fan of black metal, especially that sort of American working class black metal sound, Panopticon has a fantastic new record out called the Rhyme of Memory. I think is what it's called. It's fantastic. I love all his stuff. I'd love to be in touch with him. I don't know if anyone knows him. Um, Austin Lund is just a wonderful, amazing musician who I really admire. I'd love to sit down with him as like an interview and talk about black metal and spirituality and stuff like that. So I don't know if anyone knows him. That'd be great to do a sit down about that. But yeah, that's what I've been listening to recently. Also listen to like chip tune stuff. I was on a big Kylie Mikla kick for a while, stuff like that. Um, yeah. All right. Let's jump up to get some questions. Oops, so still some super chats coming in. All right. All right. Appreciate the super chat question. Any interest in lyrical analysis for Death Spell Omega? No, you're into black metal kind of niche. Pretty sure you take. I've never looked at any Death Spell Omega, so I don't know much about them in terms of their lyrics. I'm supposed to do a podcast at some point where we're going to look at some black metal and look at the lyrics and look at some sort of black metal and stuff like that in terms of esotericism. Um, but yeah, I do want to do that. And I think there's just excellent work to be done at the intersection of esotericism and black metal. But but I'd love to do that. And again, I'd love to sit down with some black metal musicians, folks uh, like I said, like like Austin Lund or John from Black Braid and other folks, and just sort of pick their brain and pick their spirituality in terms of how those inner things intersect. Because I think those are interesting. That's a really fruitful place to really think about. Really to really I don't know really think through these things. It's a fascinating topic. Any thoughts on I guess you mean Hildegard and her relationship with herbs and psychoactive plants? It's a great question. Um, I'm going to do an episode actually on Hildegard's scientific works, and if folks want me to, I'll definitely do any dovetails into psychoactive plants that she mentions. I do believe that she mentions the use of mandrake um, in there. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at that material in a long time. Um, But yeah, I'll take a look. I'm going to do an episode on Hildegard's scientific works and her mystical works, and if I do one, when I do one on her, when I do one on her or scientific works, I'll definitely make sure to mention any psychoactive stuff there. Although she never mentions any psychoactive plants or anything like that. Um, in her works, it seems like her visions are brought on primarily through migraines. It seems much more neurological um, than psychopharmaceutical, I suppose. All right. Some modern Valentinian-ish types, like Aaron Leach, argue that Christos redeemed all creation, ending a dualist universe. Is that a theological conjecture or based on any texts? Um, redeemed all creation. I mean, that's really just standard Catholic theology. I mean, the sort of standard Catholic theology is that when Christ was resurrected, Christ defeated the devil. That the harrowing of hell was the defeat of death and the devil. And that basically now there's just a short period, relatively short period between here and there, and that the final redemption will come. And this is the reason why Augustine and Thomas and all those guys rejected Gnosticism, because for them creation was created good, and was um, God was yeah, creation was created good, and humans mucked it up, and Christ redeemed it, and so we simply have to accept that redemption, and we accept that redemption through the mediation of the church, or at least that's according to Catholic theology. So I don't think that this is a very strange position. I think it's actually just standard Orthodox Catholicism, really Orthodox Christianity in general. So I would say that this is not particularly Valentinian at all. I think this is a position that that actually is closer to Catholicism actually than Valentinus. The teachings of Valentinus allow for a kind of moderated dualism, whereas Catholicism really rejects that wholeheartedly. So I think that what you're outlining is actually closer to Catholicism than Valentinianism, at least as far as I understand it. Um, Speaking of Valentinianism and stuff, um, I'm going to be working with M. David Litwa, who's a great scholar, just a fantastic scholar, and we're going to be teaming up to do collaboration, I think, pretty soon on the Demiurge. So if you're into Gnosticism, we're going to do a deep dive on the Demiurge, the origin of the Demiurge, all things Demiurge. So if you're interested in Yaldabaoth and Samael and Saklas, all that stuff, um, it's coming. There's a whole Demiurge episode in the works, collaboration with myself and M. David Litwa, who has a fantastic YouTube channel, by the way, on all things Demiurge, which is, I think, just infinitely fascinating. And in fact, I think Libwa has the best book on the origins of what he calls negative Demiurge traditions. I typically refer to them as malevolent Demiurge traditions. But his book, The Evil Creator, which I just reread, by the way, on the way to Mexico, sorry, was fantastic. It's a fantastic book. Very good read, quick read, all things told. Very comprehensive, fantastic book. So, The Evil Creator by M. David Litwa. Great book on the origins of the demiurge, or at least the so-called Gnostic demiurge. All right. Let's see here. Um, all right. So I'm going to let me scroll back up and grab some questions. Um, it's not gonna let me go all the way up, is it? Yes, it will. All right, let me grab. I'm gonna do some rapid fire ones though. So forgive me if they're quick. Will I do a presentation on the Galdra book? Yeah. This is Icelandic Book of Magic, early modern Icelandic Book of Magic. It's sort of a mixture of indigenous Icelandic, and Solomonic magic. Yes, I will eventually get to it. Um, it's a great question. I will do it. I will do it. Um, let's see here. I'll keep going down. Boom, boom, boom. Why haven't I done a video on Freemasonry and its relationship to alchemy? Because I don't know enough about Freemasonry. I just don't know a lot about Freemasonry, frankly. Uh, it's the kind of thing that it's just a gap in my knowledge, and when there's gaps in my knowledge, I don't make content, and so Freemasonry is not a thing I know a ton about, and so it's one of the things I'm going to have to learn a little bit about. I have some great people who give me some great recommendations, and so when I get a little bit more knowledge about Freemasonry, I will gladly do episodes on it and its relationship to alchemy. I'm going to do an episode soon on transmutation metals. Um, so, um, so I'm gonna do that. Yeah, on actual surviving uh, alleged examples of transmutation, which will get us into the show and tell in just a minute. All right. Um, has Hermeticism influenced the Sufi religion? Was it a key influence in the Islamic Golden Age? It probably had some influence. In fact, I'm going to make an episode about this. That Hermes slash Idris, Enoch, they get fused in the Islamic period, and there's definitely the case among the brethren of purity, and some Ismaili esoteric circles there in Baghdad. There definitely is some Hermeticism operating in those areas, and also just they're adjacent to some paganism of texts like the Nabatean agriculture. So yes, absolutely, Hermeticism made it into the Islamic milieu, the Islamic milieu, and definitely had an impact. Now, did it directly influence Sufism? That's something I'm not so sure about, but absolutely, Hermeticism and Hermetic ideas made their way into Islam, and that's something I'm going to talk about in a future episode. The Vandenbroek, not Vandenbroek, Vanderpoel book, The Arabic Hermes, is just a standard text on that. It's fantastic. I just got it actually. Um, So I'm gonna get into this at some point soon, definitely. Hi, Amy. I've not read Good Omens or watched the series, so I don't know anything about it. Let me know if there's something you think I should know about it. Um, in your journey of searching through all this information, what do you consider your greatest find? Um, that the way we tell history is almost always wrong. We tell very biased version of history that's extraordinarily sanitized and very much infused with the crappiest version of enlightenment values. And trust me, I am a proponent of the enlightenment. I am like the most enlightenment person you can imagine. I love the enlightenment, but I don't like crappy versions of the enlightenment. Um, and those crappy versions of the enlightenment are how we've read history through this distorted lens of this very garbled wrong version of the enlightenment, and I feel like that's done a huge disservice to intellectual, spiritual, and religious history. So I think that the most important thing that I've found is history, like actual history, not made up stuff by a bunch of 18th century dudes who think that reason and rationality, according to their definition of reason and rationality, is the high watermark of all human progress. It is definitely not. So, um, all right. Hey Ray, I love your comments, man. You leave like essays. Myth Vision, yeah, Myth Vision's great. I love Derek. He's a friend of mine, wonderful guy. I'm glad to see his channel's doing so well recently. Him and Derek and Gnostic Informant, they're both just great guys making great content. I love those guys. Um, good old Genghis Galahad. Um, I was just talking to a person about the daimon, the theurgy of the Chaldeans and their concept of daimons. Sure, maybe I can do some of that stuff. Um, need to do one on yeah, need something on daimones. We made Socrates' daimones. Thank you for the condolences. Do you feel there's any significance for discovering this time that the house was destroyed? Not really. I mean, my dad actually still lives in the same street where the house was that burned down. So he just sent me pictures of this burned out house. I was like, "Is that our old house?" Um, and so I don't think so. I think that I think that like anything, it's sad, but it also gives me a way to I was walking around the burned out ruins of that house with my dad and my brother. and it gave us a chance to like walk around and reminisce about growing up and what was like growing up and fun stories and how crazy my uncles were and stuff. So, yeah, there's grief in terms of like it's sad that the place you grew up burned down. It's also sad that the entire area is blighted, because no one cares about working class people, and they throw working class people under the bus. And so entire areas of cities like Jackson, a working class, largely African American city, can just be basically thrown under the bus by largely white led state government and starved of water and everything else that happens in Jackson, Mississippi. That's the stuff that makes me angry. But it again, I think it's important that anything that happens that's sad or bad or whatever, it has to you take the bad with the good and the good with the bad, and it gives me an opportunity to gave me and my family, my brother and my dad, an opportunity to reflect. And I think that anytime that we have an opportunity to engage in um, reflection on the past and what it meant to us then and what it means to us now, that's a good. That's a good thing. And so I'm thankful for that, as a kind of silver lining, I suppose. Um, but yeah, the conditions that led to the house being burned down, those are the kinds of stuff that pretty deeply bother me. Mm. Have ever considered covering modern philosophers like Alfred North Whitehead? That would be a good one. Alfred North Whitehead doesn't get enough coverage. I'd like to cover him. That'd be fun. Process philosophy is fun stuff. I don't think it works, but it's fun. Um, Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to cover more modern philosophy because that's kind of my training. I'm pretty steeped in sort of post-structural stuff. Um, for instance, I think the later Heidegger is fascinating. I'd love to cover stuff in the later Heidegger. I just don't know if it's in the mandate of the channel, frankly. I think that's the problem. I don't know that it really is in the mandate of the channel, but also the channel gets kind of mine. I can do what I want, so it might be an opportunity for me just to do stuff. So maybe. Um, Did you think that your original idea for a channel 3 or 4 years ago would lead to the expression of your passions as you see it today? Um, Kinda, yeah. This is kinda what I wanted. I wanted a successful channel that's education based, that's informative and covering topics in Western esotericism. This is kinda what I wanted, and before I started the channel, I spent I think I started I earmarked the title Esoterica on YouTube in December. And I didn't release the first video for Esoterica until March. So I spent the better part of 3 or 4 months just planning how I wanted this whole thing to go. And of course, no plan survives first contact. And things change and you get better and you meet wonderful people like I did, thank God, who you can build a community with. And so in some level, yeah, it's kind of what I thought it would be, or rather it's kind of what I hoped it would be. And I'm very thankful for that. But I'm also looking forward to what it might become, and I think that that's what's so cool to me about Esoterica, is um, that this community is a lot bigger than me, and there are a lot more experts out there who have a lot better expertise than I do. um, Sorry, folks who are just joining in. If you see me coughing and stuff, it's because I have COVID. Um, so yeah, I tested positive for COVID yesterday, so I'm not in super great shape. But yeah, I'm excited for what this can all become, and I would love to see Esoterica expand beyond just me. I'd love to have graduate students working in esotericism to come on and present their material, stuff like that. That'd be fantastic. And in fact, I'm going to think about doing that being a project. But um, all right. Yeah, you can find the Kabbalah class in a playlist. It has its own playlist on the channel, so feel free to find it there. Mm, all right. Still, I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. Let me see. I think some supers may have come through. Make sure I get those. Oh, wow, there's so many questions. You guys are amazing. Um, any thoughts on the portrayal of religion in Dune? So I just read just last year the first 3 Dune books. So that's the only ones I can speak of. So I can't speak of the later Dune books. Um, Yeah, his concept of religion in those is interesting, especially with the Bene Gesserit, how they're kind of like playing this long-term con on everybody. They're like basically planting messianic ideas all over the galaxy and using those along with genetic engineering and basically eugenics to shape the fate of the universe. Um, I don't know. There's some very kind of like religion as ideology operating in that in a very Marxian kind of way, that religion is sort of the opiate of the masses. But on the other hand, there's also the fact that the spice does allow you to see the future, and it does allow Paul Atreides to see what what his fate is and all of its horror in a way that the Bene Gesserit could never control. And I do like the idea that there is that religion has sort of two weird components. There's this ideological component, which is people actively attempting to control society through the use of religion. But on the other hand, there's this completely uncontrollable, ungovernable element of religion that is just sort of ecstasy and sort of explosive dynamism. And I love the idea that those in history, those mish and mash, that the Catholic Church tried to, for instance, assert its authority, and all the while there were people pushing back against it, not rejecting the authority of the church, but saying, no, like I have my own vision of God or whatever, like the Beguines and stuff. So I love that idea that there is both the Bene Gesserit are sort of driving an ideology through that world, but at the same time, there's forces they can't possibly control that no one can control, and those are also driving forces in history. So I don't know. I like that interplay. I think that's neat. And I hope there's a new series coming out about the Bene Gesserit. I think on HBO or something, and I'm looking forward to seeing. I think they're the most fascinating element of all Doom. Like just a show about them, about the Bene Gesserit, would be exactly up my alley. I'm much more interested in them than I am in Paul Atreides and all the messianic stuff. Um, um, Season 2 of Mithraism for our archaeologists, or do we still know just about them as much as we do when Manfred Klaus released his study? Um, I think that yeah, I think the last book that I know of that came out about Mithraism, at least in Mithraism being the Roman religion that isn't really probably connected to actual Iranian religion much. I think that if I believe right, the Manfred Klaus is the last major study that's come out about Mithraism. I think I could be wrong. I mean, I don't follow everything all the time, but at least on the at least those things I read, that's the last time I read something about it. And of course, he greatly dissociates Christianity from Mithraism, which I agree, but I have to check and see. All right. Wow, there's so many great questions. Yeah, I need to watch Raised by Wolves. Zeleny. I've heard it's a good um, some great stuff about Mithraism in there. Like, what if Mithraism were to become the dominant religion rather than Christianity? That totally could have happened, I think. All right. As a Texas history student about to graduate this semester, good for you. Congratulations. Looking for a university to start undergrad in esotericism, what places should I be applying to? Undergrad. Your best bet is going to be actually in Texas. Rice. Rice. They have great esotericism program at Rice. So I know it's a private university and it's a little pricey, but you could not do better than some of the folks there at Rice. They're doing really good stuff there. So that'd be my advice. Um, yeah. April DeConnick and stuff is there, I think. She's fantastic on Gnosticism. That'd be my advice. Check out the folks at Rice. That rhymed for some reason. Um, all right, I'm going to start from this side and try to um, get some questions here from this side of things. All right. Have I had any mystical experiences? I have. Um, um, yeah, I have had mystical experiences. I don't know that they mean anything. I can speak for myself. I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but I have had them. They are interesting, but I can't say that they mean anything for me personally. I don't know that they're veridical in that sense. Um, all right, folks are really liking the Hildegard stuff. Hey, Ray. It's my man in Utah. Yeah, I can. So the topic, location, all that stuff, it will be worked out. Syllabus, I'll have all that stuff. Once it comes out, it'll be, I'll have it accessible to everybody. Like I said, when and if I do a class, the way I'm going to structure it is going to be like this. It'll be for patrons first, when the class will be live for patrons, and then they can do Q&A live, and then I'll take that lecture, and then it'll be available within a week or so to the channel, because again, I really want to make sure that anything I do teaching wise will be accessible to everybody. um I think the only thing will just be, I'm not going to make anyone pay for it, but I'm gonna, would say like, hey, look, if you can throw me some bucks for doing this class, that'd be great. But the idea is that I don't want the class, or any class that I do, to ever be um I don't want anyone not to be able to access the information because of financial reasons. I want anyone to be able to access it, but if they have access to financial ability to support the work, great. But if they don't, I don't want anyone. I have people in Brazil who make, I don't know, very little money compared to what Americans make, and I don't want some person in Brazil basically being told that they have to pay hundreds of dollars for a class when their salary is hundreds of dollars, maybe a month. I want them to have access to this information just as much as I want my American folks. Excuse me. And what's great about this channel is that I have financial support. There is financial support, and I can do my work and make it accessible. So that's absolutely what I want to want to do. So, brother, I hope you're well. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. Um, will I do some videos about Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy? Probably not. This is a little bit beyond where Esoterica works. This channel tends to go up to about 1850 or so, and that's where we kind of the extent of how far we go into modernity. Some forays into the 19th and 20th centuries, but not so much. But if you want content on Rudolf Steiner, check out Angela's Symposium. She does a lot more contemporary material. She's done episodes on Rudolf Steiner, and so absolutely, Angela's Symposium is where you should um, is where you should take a look. Where you should take a look. So that's a good place for it. If you drink alcohol, does that make you sledgehammered? Yes, it just depends on how much alcohol I drink. I don't try to drink that much alcohol most of the time. There was a moment in your conversation with Dr. Hanegraaff where he discussed many thinkers reaching similar conclusions. I think we reach similar conclusions because we all have the same hardware. We have the same brain. We all live in the same universe. We all live in a world bounded by the same kinds of rules, and it seems like we live in a world in which the same kind of logic obtains everywhere. And insofar as those three things are true, or those few things are true, it's unsurprising we come to similar conclusions. But we also don't come to similar conclusions. I mean, think about how very different Buddhism is than Christianity. Those are not similar conclusions by any stretch of the imagination. Hildegard's mysticism does not, by any stretch of the imagination, come to the same mystical conclusions as Nagarjuna. So I would say that insofar as we do come to similar conclusions, it's because we're dealing with the same hardware, we're dealing with the same logic, the same universe. But I think under the hood, most mystics come to wildly different conclusions. And it's this perennial desire for them to come to the same conclusion that, in my opinion, and I've talked about this at length, this is why I'm much more of a traditionalist than I'm a perennialist, a very particular kind of traditionalist, to be sure. But I don't think that there is knowing the universal through the universal. I think one comes to the universal through the particular, and the particulars are real particular. And I find, frankly, that the particulars are more important than the universal. That's my hot take. But I'm definitely not a perennialist. Definitely on the traditionalist side of that camp for sure. And I think that and even Valter mentions this, Professor Hanegraaff mentions that it's unsurprising. We all got the same brain. And insofar as we have the same brain, it's not surprising that we come to similar conclusions. Mhm. All right. Best book on astrology, I would say that Chris Brennan's book on Hellenistic astrology is one of the best out there. So pick up Brennan's book. It's Chris. Chris is a great guy. It's a great book. Well worth checking out. All right. Let me see. Would you never do a video on the classical four elements and the four states of matter? There are many more states of matter beside plasma, gas, solid, liquid. Boy's Einstein condensates, another phase of matter. Um, um, I mean, I've kind of done one on just recently on Aristotle about Aristotle's adopting of the Empedoclean system. But no, I don't think that the traditional four or five elements, depending on if you believe in a materia prima, they don't match on to the states of matter as we understand them, matter phases as we understand them now. Not quite black metal, but I wonder if you're familiar with the Swedish band Therion. Um, I've heard of Therion, and I know that they're popular with like Thelema people. I think the lead singer or the songwriter is a Thelemite. I don't know exactly. But yeah, this is apparently like high grade esoteric music, but I've never listened to it. I should check it out. Um, but yeah, I should check it out. I've never listened to it. Yeah, Thelemite people tend to recognize to 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 rec to recommend it to me. Was Hildegard's language meant to be sung? Yeah, we have a song that incorporates some of the lingua ignota into it. So sure, at least some of it was meant to be sung. She wrote a song, she wrote a song in which you can see it there. All right, okay, a couple more questions, or not a couple, a few more. One door always lies. One always tells the truth. What is your one question to see your way out of the maze? Hint, the word right has a dual meaning. I have no idea what you mean. This sounds like something from like the Sphinx. No idea. Um, I don't think we're in a maze. I think this is a very boring maze. Like, I don't know. The people who think we live in a simulation, the only thing that I can imagine more silly than the idea that we live in a simulation is that there was any entity powerful enough to make this simulation that would do that. Like, that seems the most bizarre aspect of that. Um, that this like, it's not that bad, and it's also not great. It's just kind of eh. Like, if you're gonna make a terrible prison, make a terrible prison for us. This is basically fine. Um, I don't know. It's I always find the prison planet conspiracy people and the all that stuff to be silly. It's like, is your life that bad? I don't know. My life's not that bad. Um, I don't really feel the need to escape to something else. I'll live here and die, and that'll be it, and I'll be done. Um, but no, I don't know what this possibly means. Um, okay, we got that one. No, I've never read The Alchemist or but I've never read those texts, like The Secret and stuff like that. It's more like New Thought, 20th century stuff. I'd never had any interest in it. Um, but no, I've never read any of that stuff. I know that that's popular in certain new agey circles, but my content only goes up to about 1850, and so stuff in the 20th century is well beyond my area of expertise. Yeah, people get sometimes surprised of the things I don't know. Like I don't know anything about tarot. It's just like not in my wheelhouse. Not in my wheelhouse. I don't know the first thing about tarot. Um, which which again just shows you how disconnected like academic study of history is from people's practice. And because I'm not a practitioner, I have no reason to learn much about tarot outside of its historical setting, and that's why I just don't know much about it. All right. Let me scroll back down and grab a couple. Let's do some show and tell while we have just a minute. Um, Here's a fun question. I know that you tend to stay away from modern topics, but any thoughts on Mordecai Kaplan and his theology? I am a Kaplanian. That is my theology. If you want to know what I believe, what my religion is, go read Judaism as a Civilization. That's what I believe. Basically, I am a Kaplanian. Sometimes people say that I'm a Reconstructionist. I belong to the Reconstructionist movement, but I'm really an Orthodox Kaplanian. So that's my Rebbe. My Rebbe is Mordecai Kaplan. May his merit protect me. So, yeah, I'm absolutely a Kaplanian. All right, let's do a little show and tell real fast. This is a coin. Let me see if I can get it to where it'll zoom in on the coin. It's a pretty big coin, silver. It's not going to zoom in on the coin, unfortunately. I'm going to focus on the coin. But this coin, it's pretty large. I don't have a coin for comparison, but it's about 3-4 times the size of like a euro coin. um, if you want a sense of how big it is, this is my phone. All right, so if you get a sense of this is my Pixel 4a. There's the coin. So this coin is cool, and I'm going to be doing a whole episode about this coin because this coin is the ground floor for the most famous alchemical transmutations of the 17th century. This is a Brabant thaler. The Brabant thalers are neat because one, they're very pure silver and very large. This is one of the most important coins of the 17th century. The word dollar comes from the Brabant thaler. But, and what I'll talk about in the episode is that some of the most important transmutations that ever occurred were performed by a dude named Johann Becher. And Becher began almost all his transmutations with Brabant thalers. He could transmute silver into gold. In fact, he recommended that the Principality of Friesland in West Holland melt down all of these they could to transmute them into gold. Now, the question is, how can you transmute a silver coin into gold? And the answer is, and if you were here with me in real life, you could see that if you catch the light just right with these coins, they have a weird golden tinge to them. And they have a golden tinge to them because there's actually a small amount of gold in these. And so these coins, if you've ever seen alchemical medals, medallions, those are medallions that are allegedly to have been made through transmutation. Many of them began as Brabant thalers. And so this coin is the coin that launched 1,000 transmutation stories, not 1,000, like a dozen. And you can still see examples, and I'll be doing an episode on them soon. You can still see examples of transmutation metals. They're the only examples that we have of metals allegedly achieved through transmutation. And I'll be talking about the chemistry behind it because it's fascinating. Because Becher actually tells us on 3 or 4 occasions how he transmuted silver into gold. And I'll be going through the chemistry of those transmutations, which has been now reverse engineered by Krapenko and some other folks. So we'll be looking at this. Also, if you want one of these, I'll be having in my winter catalog. In my winter catalog of books, I'm going to be including not just books this time, but also a good bit of fragments of incantation bowls. So if you've ever wanted an incantation bowl, like that one, if you ever wanted an ancient incantation bowl, I can't sell. I don't have any complete ones to sell, but I have a good amount of fragments which all have writing on them. So if you want a fragment of an incantation bowl, I'll have a good amount of those. All ethically sourced. They're actually from a museum that's going out of business, unfortunately, but they were purchased from a museum. And I'll have a Brabant Thaler for sale as well. So if you want to own a piece of alchemical history, this coin is the most important coin in the history of alchemy. So I'll be having one of these for sale as well. And they're just also neat. I mean, like the silver just like it feels so heavy in the hand. It's just a cool piece of silver. It's giant too. So at any rate, transmutation stories begin with this coin, the Brabant Thaler, the most important coin in the history of alchemy. So look for this coin in a future episodes coming up soon, and in my winter catalog. Um, all right. Um, so what's my favorite video that I've ever uploaded to the channel? My favorite video, I think, is the one on the Dervini Papyrus. I find the Dervini Papyrus to be extremely interesting. Totally not known about for whatever reason. It's well under anyone's radar. It's fascinating. The Dervini Papyrus is to me the most fascinating. It's the oldest manuscript to survive in Europe. It's absolutely interesting and well worth taking a look at. So yeah, I did an episode on the Dervini Papyrus, which is I think one of my favorite episodes that I've ever done. Um, it's a super neat papyrus. Um, how much is known about Hildegard's mentor? I guess you're asking about Jutta, the woman that was the abbess of the convent where Hildegard was secluded to. Actually, we don't even know when Hildegard was actually even secluded. It could be as early as 7. It could be as late as like 13 or something. I don't know that much is known about Jutta. Now, this would be a great sort of dive into what do we know about Jutta. Also, Volmar. What do we know about Hildegard's secretary, who was instrumental in the process of getting her writings and stuff secured. I don't know much about Jutta at all, and I don't know anything about Volmar, but that would be an absolutely interesting study, Jesse. Um, Absolutely interesting. I do know that the where Hild came abbess, she moved to Rupertsberg. Is there a there? Is there some story there? I don't know, but that's an interesting question. That is an interesting question. All right. Um, this is very kind. Quite frequently as a theme on the esoteric and religious trauma. Thank you, Squiddicky. That's a great name. It's an honor to be, to be referenced in a BFA and sort of again a wonderful academic work. I really appreciate being able to be able to support your academic work. I wish you the very best on your work. That's wonderful. Thank you. Um, all right. Yeah, I have read the Grimoires book by Davies. It's good. I wish it focused a bit more on pre-modern grimoires, but he does an absolutely great job of focusing on especially the reception of the grimoires into the 19th and 20th centuries, especially into central, like Caribbean and African American contexts. So that is an area that grimoire influence doesn't get focused on a lot, but it's great. It's absolutely great. So it's a good text. I wish it focused a little bit more on medieval grimoires, but frankly, we just don't know a lot about them. We're still in the very infancy of that work. Still very much in the infancy of that work. So still a ton to be done in the history of grimoires. Yeah, Zalini. This is to your point. It's really easy for Americans and Europeans to believe that Americans and Europeans are the only people in the world that exist, and um, I can't do much to change a lot of stuff. But what I can do is I can make my stuff as accessible as possible, precisely in order to help with the question of accessibility. That as long as you have access to a cell phone or something, you can watch the content. So, yeah, it's very important for American and European content creators to know that barriers to entry of their content, financial barriers, They are real barriers for people not in America, not in Europe. Um, and the Southern Hemisphere and the developing world deserve access to this information as much as anyone else does. Oh. All right, folks. I'm gonna get a couple more questions, and then I'm going to have to sign off and get some rest. This damn COVID, man. Um, it is no joke. All right, a couple more questions. Some scrolling randomly through here. See what I see. Yep. Hey, Paul. I am familiar with David Bialy. He's written a huge book on Hasidism, right? It's a big brick of a book. I have it just in the other room. Of course, Crush from Sholem. Absolutely. The Bialy book is great. I think I got about a third of the way through and ran out of gas. So I need to get up the mountain again. That's a great book. It's like at this point the definitive treatment of Hasidism in academic literature. It's a fantastic book. Although I have to admit that I did not get all the way through it. Like I said, I think I got about quarter of the way through, third of the way through, and gave up. It's huge. Um, Yes, absolutely. I want to do more Renaissance stuff, more Ficino stuff, although it always performs badly. I don't know what it is. I think people just don't like Christianity and they don't like mystical Christianity. And so Ficino and those guys really get thrown under the bus, which I think is a huge mistake. Anti Christian bias in the esoteric world is a disaster. And the anti Christian bias that I see, and again, coming from a person who is not Christian, for whom Christianity has done enormous harm to my community, throwing Christianity out and not paying it its due, especially when it comes to especially when it comes to Renaissance esotericism, is a completely foolhardy business and not intellectually worthwhile. So. Absolutely. I don't know that I'll do an episode on the Elysian mysteries just because it's been so well trod by other YouTubers who've done a really great job on it. So I don't know that I'll do that, but I will definitely come back to Ficino. In fact, there's an episode I want to make on the mystical theology of Pseudo Dionysius, and I want to bring in Ficino, who wrote a commentary on it, as sort of like my interlocutor. I probably want to team up with Dan Atrell on this because he's an expert in it. But I would love to uh, set up a dialectic, a conversation between Pseudo Dionysius and his uptake by Ficino, and it's a fantastic tour de force of a commentary if you've never had the chance to read it. So, so that's in the future. I want to do that at some point. Definitely want to do that at some point. All right. Does your beard provide adequate insulating value in the wintertime? I don't know because I haven't not had a beard anytime I've lived anywhere where the winter, so I don't have any comparanda. But it can't hurt. It can't hurt. I mean, also like I'm bald, so like I have to have hair somewhere to cut the wind. So I have to wear I use it like an Afghani style pakol, like the Afghanistan hat over my yarmulke, so that helps to keep my head warm. And it's really coming down out there. The snow is really coming down. Um, all right. All right, a couple more questions and then is the Gaia stuff of any value or does it tie anything traditionally relevant? Every time I've seen one of those Gaia ads, which I know runs on my content, I think I've gotten stupider. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to watch anything by the Gaia people. That stuff seems like, I don't know, bottled stupidity. Um, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, I've watched the ads, and I'm like, this is just like the most cockamamie nonsense. So no, the guy stuff seems really bad. Um, yeah, I don't recommend it. Do not recommend. Um, all right, a couple more questions. Any advice or resources regarding distilling absinthe? Also, a Zosimos episode. Yes, definitely going to have a Zosimos episode. Absolutely. Although not before I get to a Pseudo Democritus episode. Pseudo Democritus, then Zosimos. Good resources for distilling absinthe. Yes, you need to read the traditional manuals. That's what I'll tell you. If you want to know what they are, let me know. I can send you a link or something. But if you want to learn how to distill absinthe, you got to read the old school manuals from the 19th century to learn to do it. That's all I learned, and that's where you should learn. Tradition, folks. Tradition. All right. I have not been to the Theosophical Library, but I might be going this summer because I might be hanging out with Miguel Connor and the Gnosticism conference. So I might go down there for the Gnosticism conference and hang out with some of those folks. So Aeon Byte, I think it's Miguel Connor. He's a great guy, and I'm gonna get to that soon. What is the next Paracelsus episode? Soon, soon. This quarter, I'll get to the Paramirum. It was great to get to the Paragranum, now the Paramirum, and then I can go jump off into the Archidoxus. Um, some of the Archidoxus we're not sure Paracelsus himself wrote, but yeah, that will be the next. That will be the next. The next thing is the Paramirum. Are there any modern esoteric practitioners you respect? All the ones I've ever met. I respect. I don't have any. My thinking about that is that if someone engages in a spiritual practice that is underwritten by rigorous intellectual work and scholarly work, fine. It's not for me to ever poo poo on someone's spirituality. I don't have any interest in doing that, and I don't think anyone else should do that either. I think you can come to perfectly legitimate, very different conclusions about reality, and than me, and I can still have immense respect for you. I don't agree with the metaphysical worldviews of Aaron Leach or Marco Visconti or even some of my other content creators, friends. We have very different worldviews, but to me, what garners my respect or disrespect is not the conclusion that you reach. It's the means by which you get there. And if you get there through a combination of rich rich experiences, through scholarship, through critical thinking, through critical spirituality, then I respect anyone that does that. And even if they come to radically different conclusions than I do. So it's not where they land ultimately that really I'm really concerned about. It's how people get there. And if someone claims that they now know the secrets of the universe because they saw it in a dream once, I'm like, okay, I'm just not very interested in that claim. But if someone says, "Hey, look, I've been thinking about this and practicing this stuff for like 25 years, and I'm still working on it, and I still have a lot of questions, but I still think there's a there, and I'm still trying to intellectually understand it." Yeah, of course I respect that. It's extremely respectable. Um, so no, I think when we only respect people because they agree with us, we don't deserve respect. I respect people because I disagree with them and I disagree with them in a respectful. I disagree with them not because I think that they're bad people or that they're wrong. Even if I disagree with them, what I cherish is the ability to build a relationship with someone, despite the fact that we disagree. That's built on the mutual foundation of let's think hard about this. Let's live in a community where we appreciate difference. Let's do critical thinking. Let's also like respect the fact that people have mystical visions and that you don't have the I don't have the ability to tell them they didn't experience stuff. That's what kind of extreme hubris is this? So no, I have lots of respect for people on mystical journeys and mystical spiritualities and religions, even if that's not my path. Even if that's not my path. All right. All right. Um. Yeah. Oh yeah. I. You're right. I need to get more mods, but also like I don't know who would be a good mod. I mean, if I could pay someone to do it, maybe I don't know. That'd be a thing. But yeah, if you ever want to mod a Esoterica stream, just like shoot me a message on my website. Again, I don't want to throw you a few bucks or something. I don't know, but yeah, the chat's always just absolutely a mess. That's not true. The chat's often lovely. There's always bad actors, and what can you do about there being bad actors? There's always the kind of things that go like that. But yeah, you're right. I should do get some more intentional moderation going. Um, Yeah, thank you. I really love the Lilith episodes that I've done. I think there's still one more to be done, um, but yeah, I really appreciate that. Also, it's just really fun to make fun of basic bros. Um, I mean, dudes get dudes get too much of a pass, so it's fun to like I don't know punch them in the nuts. Um, right. All right, folks. Also, to say I'm about to log off, so if you I don't want anyone to do any more supers because I don't want anyone to lose their I don't want to anyone to lose their position or I don't want anyone to give money and me not be able to answer their stuff. Um, are there any esoteric symbols which could represent the dialectic principle of the Hegelian dialectic? Yeah, Hegel actually provides some symbols. I think, in fact, yeah, here it is. It's funny. It's like literally within arm's reach. Dyed in the wool Hegelian that I am. This is Hegel and the Hermetic Tradition by Magi, which is a great book. Um, I think Hegel even himself draws some kind of image of the dialectic, and he uses some alchemical stuff in here. Where is it at? Hold on, folks. Sorry. Let me see if I can find this real fast. Page 111. Of course. Yeah, I mean, washed out. This Hegel drew this. I mean, that's absolutely like Hegel being straight up to like that's like sort of alchemical representation and triangles and triangles and stuff. That's actually that was written out by Hegel himself. So yeah, this is the kind of image that would make a great Esoterica t-shirt. But yeah, that's Hegel using sort of alchemical imagery taken from the Hermetic tradition, stuff like this, to represent the Hegelian dialectic. So, yep, you're a real Hegelian when you have your copy of Hegel in the Hermetic tradition, like literally ready to hand. I'm sorry about that Heidegger joke, folks. Could not do it. Could not do it. Could not do it. Are the alchemical tools behind you operative or speculative? I've done some alchemy. I mean, then so far as what I would consider like forensic alchemy, which is just recreating alchemical experiments, I've done that. Sure. Um, Now, can that be a spiritual practice? I suppose. I mean, people use stretching as a spiritual practice, which is basically yoga. So people can use stretching as a spiritual practice. I imagine you can use distillation as a spiritual practice. There's another pun in there, but sure. I think anything can be a spiritual practice. I think that if you infuse meaning into human behaviors over and above what is just the rote doing of something, you got a spiritual practice. So never hear when I talk about spiritual alchemy as being a modern thing that's in the least bit disparaging. There's nothing wrong with there being modernity. Modernity's fine. And if spiritual alchemy makes sense to you, um, you should absolutely do it. And I think you should do it with all the safety stuff involved. I mean, you shouldn't be out there roasting cinnabar without having a good fume hood or something. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with spiritual alchemy being basically a modern invention. It's not really historically to be found. And sometimes people read me as saying that spiritual alchemy is because it's not historical. It's not to be found in the medieval European tradition or the Renaissance. That somehow it's an indictment of the whole thing. No, it's there in Zosimus. It's there in modernity, and I think that folks should, if folks find spiritual meaning in alchemy, then fantastic, more power to them. Um, but historicizing something doesn't delegitimate the spiritual significance of anything. In fact, I would hope that historicizing something deepens and enriches the spiritual value of something. So, um, where can I get an old school manual for absinthe distillation? Email me. I can point you in the right direction. Go to my website and send me a question, and I will send you a. I can send you some. I can send you some resources. Um, yes, Zevi is definitely not a Marxist materialist, but he is absolutely a dear, dear friend of mine, an absolutely dear friend of mine. Lovely dude. It was so great having him. He like lived here for like a month. It's like having like your like one of your best friends and one of your best intellectual thought partners, literally sleeping in the room next to you. Man, it was so great. I miss Zevi. I hope he gets to come back and hang out. Um, why do you prefer Lacan to Jung? Structuralism. Structuralism. When in doubt, structuralism. So, any plan on making an episode about Wicca? No, there's no plans to make any episodes about Wicca. And the reason why I'm not going to make any episodes about Wicca are twofold. The first, it's too new. Wicca is just too new of a religion for me to cover. It's less than what's 100 years old at the most, so it's just too new for esoterica to cover. Now I know that sounds weird because people think of Wicca as being a really ancient religion, but Wicca is incredibly new. So no. Secondly, again, if you want to check out good episodes on Wicca, go check out Angela's Symposium. Um, so, so absolutely go check out her channel. She does great episodes on Wicca. So now that's not to say because Esoterica doesn't cover it, it's not important. It's of course of Wicca is important. It's an extremely amazing and beautiful world religion. It's just that it's too new of a religion for me to cover here on the channel much. So, um, but yeah, that's basically the reason why we don't cover much in terms of Wicca or Thelema or things like that. Distillation is a spiritual practice needs to be printed somewhere on your absinthe bottle. Yes, you can see my I have a couple little distillation apparati in the background. Apparati? Is it second declension? Fourth declension? I don't know. If it's fourth declension, then the plural is apparatus. Um, do I play Go? I do. You can see there. So hard to do this stuff mirror image. Those are Go bowls. Those are stone bowls. Yeah, I play Go. I used to play it religiously, like all the time, but now I really fell out of it. Fell out of it. Um, but yeah, I love Go. In fact, I would say that intellectually, I was functioning at my highest when I was playing Go all the time. Um, um, yeah. So yeah, Go was. I remember the days of playing Go where my head was just like. I mean, it felt like some combination of being drunk and high intellectually. It was fantastic. Only Go has ever given me that kind of extreme headspace. After a good game of Go, it's exhilarating and exhausting and all the best intellectual feeling that I know of. Um, yeah, I only get that. I only ever got that from playing Go. Um, yeah, Lucas. So it is second declension. There we go. Okay, just to make sure, you. That's why it's not Jesus, because Jesus is fourth declension. Um, So has anyone ever compared Hildegard's work to the Voynich manuscript? No, because I mean they have. It's a possibility, and people certainly have looked at the paleography of the Voynich compared to Hildegard's Litera Ignota. But there's no paleographic continuity, and statistically, if if the Voynich manuscript had um, entropy signatures like the lingua ignota would have, um, then we would see something. But the Voynich has all kinds of weird uh, entropy signatures that don't indicate the existence of natural language. Now, aside from fulfilling Zipf's laws and stuff like that, which is again you can get that fulfilled not with a natural language, but um, you can think of the lingua ignota basically is just a substitution cipher, but a substitution cipher at the level of words. So it's a book cipher. It's a kind of book cipher. Not a book cipher like the the treasure cipher, but a book cipher in the sense of you're just substituting out whole words. Um, the Voynich definitely doesn't operate like that. Definitely doesn't operate like that. Um, all right. Few last questions. So it is fourth declension. Apparatus is fourth declension. Lucas, man, you got to help brother out. You can't be telling me it's second declension. I'm going around saying, but people do say apparati. Are they just wrong? Um, the real questions here. If we got to ask Dana Trail, he's my Latin dude. Um, so all right, folks. I think I'm gonna have to call it a day. Maybe we'll call it a day. Mostly just because I'm fading. COVID's no joke, and yeah, I feel like I'm really fading out here. But let me just say this, and also Shabbat's coming in, and it's like really coming down out there, snow wise. I'm gonna make a fire in our. We heat our home with a um we heat our home with a wood. We have a wood stove. It's not how we heat our home entirely, but I mean, primarily it's one of the primary modes of heating our home. And I definitely want to get a fire built before Shabbat comes in. But at any rate, um, let me just say again, I I mentioned earlier this whole fiasco with this institution that invited me in and then kicked me to the curb. Um, those kinds of moments are moments where I think it's really easy to fall into to really dark emotions. Anger, disappointment, the sense that you're a failure, or the sense that you're less than, or something like that. But you know, that's not what I want to give into. That's not what I want to give into. I don't want to give into emotions like that because I don't deserve that. Frankly, y'all don't deserve that either. No one does. Um, and being on this live stream today, there's sometimes more than 500 people here, and seeing the kind comments I get on the channel tell me that being angry at those people, uh, despairing over things, all that kind of stuff, none of that is what I should be feeling. And I want to thank this the y'all, the people that watch this live stream, the people that support this channel, um, because I can rest well knowing uh, that I am making an impact. I am making educational opportunities more accessible. I'm helping people to get access to information, and I am doing the work of an educator. And I hopefully I'm doing that work well. And that the fact that I get that feedback from y'all means all the world to me. And I just want to express on these last few minutes of the live stream just how deeply grateful I am for that. So everybody, take care of yourself. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you get some rest. I'm gonna go get some rest. I'm gonna get some reading done. Going to get an episode out next week. Um, it's going to be on the Therapeutai, a sect of Jews more obscure than the Essenes. So we're going to take a look at the Therapeutai, who laid the groundwork, it seems like, for Christian monasticism. So we'll take a look at Philo's On the Contemplative Life, and maybe one of the only texts of them that survive, a text called the Testament of Job, that may or may not be a Therapeutai work. I doubt it, but there's an important scholar that says it is. So I take my my lead from these scholars. So look for an episode on the Therapeutai next week. But aside from that, you know, again, thank all y'all. Thank y'all for making this possible. Thank you for supporting my work, for picking up merch, for joining me on Patreon. I'm going to put some polls up about this class, whether we go in the direction of the Merkava or go in the direction of Agrippa. Sorry, I think I'm running out of steam. Yeah, but I'm going to put some put some polls up here in the next couple of weeks about that. But again, I want to leave on a note of extreme gratitude for my viewership, for the fans of this channel, for the people that support me. Um, you guys mean the world to me, and I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. So that said, I'm going to go rest and get over this COVID. Hopefully, being able to get some writing done on Monday to get this episode out the door for you guys by next Friday. But until then, until next Friday, or maybe Wednesday when I drop the thing, the hype post, or whatever they call it. Until then, I want you guys to take care of yourselves, love the people that you love, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.